This is gorgeous. I think they use the term fist through the air. As a third row passenger, I am the blind spot monitoring system in this car. Judging by this wheel well, you could maybe do 26s if you are that baller. Isitchristmas.com. So yes, full web browser right here. That's pretty cool. 2026 model year, no knacks. Geez, I have so much room. Really? This is absolutely the Escalade to get. All right, so Isaiah is designing a lucid gravity on the browser on the screen there. Oh, you're gonna open the door for me? Thank you, sir. How was your ride, sir?
Amazing, I can sleep in this. Why own a home?
Thank you to our sponsors for today's video, EVCS, Ionna, InfyPower, and Eaton. This video is brought to you by EVCS 2025, the premier EV charging expo. From utilities to policymakers and tech innovators, the key players in shaping EV infrastructure are coming together at EVCS in Las Vegas on March 25th through 27th. We would love to see you there. Also, Ionna, North America's premier charging network. With unmatched commitment to elevating the customer experience, Ionna is opening America's roads to all EVs, giving drivers the coverage they need, the reliability they deserve, and the amenities they crave. Also, InfyPower, the largest EV charger module provider with over 3 million power modules running reliably worldwide. Their latest G2 collection features ultra-high power density and efficiency for EV charging and energy storage integration. InfyPower, innovation for your power. And Eaton. Eaton is a one-stop shop for implementing reliable and innovative EV charging infrastructure at your site. Across all applications, Eaton's EV charging infrastructure, hardware, and software gives you the scalability, flexibility, and intelligence you need to charge today and scale up tomorrow. Learn more at eaton.com/EVCI.
This thing is baller. Technical term. This is the Cadillac Escalade IQL, aka what I think is basically the new flagship of the brand. Sure, they have the Celestiq, they have the Optic, the Vistic, the Lyric, everything ick, but this thing is so cool. We of course have the Escalade IQ over there. Kyle's already done a full video on that, driving, tour, etc. But this is the new thing today, the Cadillac Escalade IQL. L stands for long, large, I don't know, other synonyms like that. So jump into all the nerdy details with us from e-trunk to trunk on the Escalade IQL, including all the data, the length, width, cargo capacity changes, and even why it doesn't actually have the same range of the Escalade IQ. Okay, so again, Kyle and Alyssa actually did a full tour video of the Escalade IQ back a couple months ago now. And it's interesting, again, that the rollout has been to dealerships first, and then finally the media get a chance to drive it. And there's even an embargo on driving impressions for a week from now, which is interesting. To be fair, the original time and place of this event was LA a few weeks ago, which was rescheduled because of the fires. So that is a totally valid reason. We are finally here now. No complaints. The pushback actually allowed us to have time to see the IQL now that it's just been unveiled. And I think this thing is so cool. So we're going to talk about, like I said, all the details, what differentiates it from the IQ. So we'll get my impressions of the software as well. We'll look at the executive package of the second row and also the non-executive package, and maybe how you might want to spec your Escalade IQ. Before we get too deep into this beast of a truck, SUV, house, whatever you want to call it, let's talk about where it sits in price and in the Cadillac lineup and its competition. The internal combustion Escalades, which will remain for now, start off about $90,000 and they go up to about $120,000 depending on spec for most specs. Of course, you can go all the way to over $160,000 for the coveted Escalade V. The crazy supercharged V8 situation. That thing's wild. But the Escalade IQ starts at a measly $130,000 when you compare it to the Escalade V. Not too bad, but still expensive, more than most of the other three rows. But then again, nothing else is quite the American land yacht that is the Escalade. It rises up to about 156 grand, so it does span that kind of combustion, top of combustion range up to Escalade V. It kind of slots in that middle area. The IQL only adds a few $1,000s beyond the IQ, starting at 133. Yes, the website says 127 for IQ and 130 for IQL, but that's before destination required charges, etc. So basically 130 to 133 for IQ to IQL, and then you can spec it up from there with Sport 1, Sport 2, Luxury 1, Luxury 2. Basically, how do you want the outsides to look? Pick a color, pick trim. We'll look at the configurator now. So here's the Escalade IQL. Once again, that profile is just quintessential Escalade if you ask me. But yes, it does say from $130,000 and a bunch of specs and stuff. Really a pretty nice website. I really like Cadillac's website design, and a lot to choose from as far as exterior. Not much with interior for the luxury trim, but that may change with, premium luxury, premium sport. Yeah, lots of various things to play with here. That's kind of fun. So you can always go to the configurator and play with it yourself. But of course, looking up here, go back to vehicles, to electric, Celestic by inquiry only. Yep, that's how I know I can't afford that. So that's 26 model year. Can't really fully spec that yet, but IQ itself, we can kind of build and buy. Let's see what it says. It's so annoying if they do have you put your zip code in and they don't. Maybe they already know. That's not my zip code, so not really sure where that pulled from. But here it is. Luxury 1, 130 basically. Sport 1, 130, $500 more. Luxury 2 adds roughly 20 grand. That gives you power open and closed doors. There's a lot of features to get into, and Sport 2 is just about $500 over that. So very similar between Luxury 2 and Sport 2. It's just kind of the vibe of the exterior and how it looks. So I don't know, can't really go wrong. I think they actually both look good and they both work with the Escalade. Lots of options to choose from. It does tow 8,000 pounds, by the way. I don't think I mentioned it in the rest of this video, but that's pretty good for an SUV. Like, not many people are doing more towing than that, so can't really complain too much. Midnight Steel Frost, that is absolutely, that's the color to get. $6,000 for their matte paint. Can't wait for Colton to do a build quality analysis and really paint analysis on that. And of course you can do the power sharing situation. That would all cost extra. But speccing it here, so if I go with that exterior, okay, Harbor Blue. That would look nice, the blue on blue. And that's kind of like the one in the showroom itself. Executive second row adds 10 grand. Wow. So that's pretty interesting. So now we're up to 165,000. So yeah, now we're sitting at over Escalade V. As far as options beyond that, yep. Wow, that front trunk organizer that I'll show you later in this video is $1,000. That's crazy. So executive second row itself is $7,500, but it forces you to add some other things as well. So, all these things that are included in package. So maybe that's why. Either way, there's so many things to get into with building it out. So I encourage you to play with the configurator if you want to. But that's kind of what we're looking at as far as price. Now, when we look at the competition, of course, one of the first ones that comes to mind is the Lucid Gravity. This thing looks amazing too. Looks like a very sleek and slender, smaller brother to the Escalade, but just totally different. Like, they really do feel different, but they aren't that far off in specs. Yes, the Gravity does technically have less storage capacity in every compartment, but not way less. Like, I think most people would still be totally fine with the storage capacity. It's not a huge difference. And it is wild to see how much smaller the Gravity is. I think it was something like 2 feet shorter, or like a foot shorter, 2 feet less long. I don't know the dimensions, but it is considerably smaller of a vehicle. So that is something to keep in mind. Lucid is just far more efficient with their packaging. I mean, it's extremely impressive. So the smaller car to me appeals more. I'm more of a Gravity person myself, and as you might know, they are cheaper as well. But still a very nice place to be. Of course, we have the Rivian R1S, also cheaper, also a bit smaller, even less storage space than the Gravity, but more rugged and off-road perhaps than either of the other options. So that's the niche that this fills. Very off-road and rugged feeling, and also my favorite software of the bunch. Although I would like to play with Gravity software more than it is fully out and about. That would be interesting. So I'm kind of torn between Lucid and Rivian. I like both of them quite a bit. Of course, you have the Kia EV9. This is the cheapest option of the 3-row electric SUVs as of right now. It's good. But it's smaller than even the Rivian and the Gravity. Still useful space though. Like, it's still a 3-row SUV, just not substantial space. This almost goes into the people who need mostly a 2-row and sometimes a 3rd row, or maybe small kids in the 3rd row. But with the Escalade, you're talking adults in the 3rd row, totally fine. Of course, we have the Model X. This should get an update this year, hopefully. So yeah, that's some of the competition out there. Pick and choose. Butts and seats will help you really decide if you're really shopping. But I just wanted to point that out to you guys. So with that, let's get back to the video and I'll finish my full tour of the IQL and more things with the IQ. But that's just some of the competition out in the land and how it prices out. Let's just jump right up front. This is the E-Trunk. It is 12.2 cubic feet of capacity, which is really pretty impressive. That is bigger than Rivian. That is not quite as big, I don't think, as the Ford Lightning F-150 Mega Power Frunk, which they kind of renamed, so I don't know if they call that anymore. But this has a nice low load height, kind of like the Lightning does with that truck. And similar to Silverado EV, of course, Sierra EV, a lot of shared components across these vehicles, all being under the GM umbrella. But unlike the Rivian, it is a nice lower, easy entry ride height. Unlike the Silverado EV that I at least was testing recently, this is carpeted. So it actually feels pretty nice here. And there's actually different accessories you can add in this if you want, but it is nice and long, nice and deep. We can see how cargo fits in it in a second. And there is, of course, a power plug right here. So you could prop up a TV or something. That would be a really a funny accessory if you ask me. There's a one-touch close button, one-touch open button, but actually not the case if you do it from the inside. Actually, let's see if this works. There we go. Ironically, we had to wait on filming this a little bit because I had to like reset the 12-volt battery, which is really funny to me because that's just an issue with some GMs, usually when they start running out of juice. So maybe that's what this thing has been dealing with. It's been out here all week. People have been playing with it, messing around with it. Maybe it died. Either way, it's working now. Glad to see it. And this is, of course, a pre-production model, so I'm not going to over-critique too many things. I'm sure it'll work fine when you take delivery. But yes, the one-touch open and close is only right here. It's one-touch open anywhere else on the key fob or in the driver's display area, but those have to actually hold and close it, like hold it down to, as a safety measure, I guess. So in case a kid starts climbing in after you walk away and you don't realize it, that would make sense. So, front design now. This is not really any different than the IQ because the whole front, like 2/3 of the car, are the same. You have the same giant ass grille, which is, is it still a grille if there's no actual slats? Isaiah's behind the camera.
You know what? It looks like a grill.
Right.
So
they physically copied their own grille, which I think they kind of had to do. We see this with Audi, for example. Cars who have had the grille as part of their design ethos. I guess they're retaining the grille shape in the EVs, even though they don't necessarily need it. That doesn't really bother me. We're so used to grills, and I think that may fade away. You know, EVs in 30 years may not have fake grills, I guess you could call them, because why would they? People would be like, why is that there? And then we can remind them, back in our day, we had to gas up our cars. It needed more airflow, a huge engine. Now they have this grill. I like to see, by the way, I almost call it the Mega Power Frunk, wrong brand. I like to see the E-Trunk in this car because the Cadillac design, I mean, me and Isaiah saw a Cadillac on the road yesterday from like the 70s. Long hood, like you could play foosball, or not foosball, table tennis, I don't know, on a Cadillac hood from the 70s. That's like, to me, also part of their ethos. Kind of the elegant, sculpted, slice angular vibes. And ironically, the other IQ models, like the Optic, we've been playing with this week as well. The Vistic might have a frunk, I'm not really sure. The Lyric doesn't. Just some of those cars have still decent sized hoods with no frunk at all. And I think that points to, I don't know, it feels like lazy packaging. Maybe they have a different reason, but we have other cars in other similar segments from other brands that do have frunks. Not everyone has the same frunk. Of course, Hyundai, Kia, Genesis, they're pretty lazy about it as well, but cool to see this thing take advantage of this real estate to pack in over 12 cubic feet of very useful storage space. Of course, you still have the same lighting elements. It would be interesting to see if they have like customizable things in the future and how you can light these up, kind of like the EV9. Kyle pointed out it did feel like the EV9 and look like it a little bit, but not quite as cool, because the EV9's custom light things go through the paint, which is a really neat feature. This is, you know, just kind of plastic. I'm not sure what this is, carbonate something. Feels nice, but the lighting is, yeah, that's how it looks. It does greet you. It does kind of a cool animation sequence when you walk up to it, which is neat. That's also shown in Kyle's video. But these huge blades, I love these. I love this Cadillac ethos. It just feels aggressive and like, I think they use the term fist through the air. So that's what the whole front of this truck looks like. I do feel like I call it a truck because it is just the size of a small house. Around the side here, I guess we can go this way as I've got a bit more room. We do have 24-inch wheels, which is currently the only option, and they are huge. These are kind of the airflow. It kind of looks like a fan with a bunch of different slats, and they do all go through, so I guess that's to get air in there somehow for some reason. What's interesting is, technically speaking, from a aerodynamic standpoint, all four wheels would have to be a different design to get truly optimum aerodynamics. And I don't think most cars are doing that. They're just kind of using the same wheel, which makes sense. It's hard to rotate your tires, hard to get replacement wheels if every single one is different, but it would be interesting to see if a car does come out that way, or let me know if I'm wrong and there is a car already doing unique four-corner wheels, because you'd have to change the fan blade style to make the most aerodynamic wheel possible. Either way, that's what's on this. Giant 24-inch wheels, giant 35-inch tires. Fortunately, you have air suspension components shared with other GM vehicles that are also of this heft, and that helps with ride comfort and it's stuff like that, which is cool. But I would like to see more sidewall to help with that comfort even further. Escalade to me is just like plowing down the road. Although it does look good on 24s, judging by this wheel well, you could maybe do 26s if you are that baller. But there's a difference between looking baller and feeling the comfort of baller. So I would, I'd be curious to see smaller wheel options, which are coming. 2026 model year has some interesting changes, if you ask me. They will have a 22-inch wheel option, I've heard, which I'm excited to see how that looks. I'm excited to see how a little bit more sidewall on the tire might feel. And 26 model year is when Dolby Atmos will be added to all the cars. We'll get on the interior in a minute here, but I'm excited about that. And this being the IQL, let's come around the side here. It is the more traditional Escalade suburban box shape, which I love to see. When they unveiled this, they said 460 miles of range. I was like, what? Because the IQ has 460 miles of range, and that is a more sleek aerodynamic shape. However, that's the 25 IQ. This is the 26 IQL. In 2026, the IQ allegedly will have 465 miles of range. So maybe they found extra range or they retested it. I'm not really sure, but the range difference officially is 5 miles. Not a big difference when you're talking 460 versus 465. Love to see it. It's a lot of range. It's also a lot of battery. This is the 24 module Ultium pack. I know they've stopped saying Ultium sometimes, but in the presentation this morning, they said it was an Ultium battery. So I don't really know what's happening with Ultium. I don't really care. I think it's great marketing. I don't know why they think they have to maybe delete it, but in the Optic, they avoided using that term. With the Escalade, they used the term. Not really sure what that's about. Either way, like I said, it's pretty much the same up to about here. Then, instead of sloping back, you have it just staying relatively flat, and I love that. You also see the difference in this being body color, whereas if you look at the IQ over there, it's kind of reversed. The window is right here, and then the body color is up here. So it's kind of unique to see this difference. We'll see how it looks differently on the inside in a second here. Also, 2026 model year here with CCS still, no NACS. And I've asked everyone, and they all say, we don't have anything to comment on right now. So NACS is still TBD. Around back, this just, this feels so awesome. I love this. Yeah, same situation with the rear wiper being hidden kind of up here, which is kind of cool. So it does give it a very clean look. No wiper just slapped on the back there. I like that they've hidden the rear wiper. It is interesting that on the Optic we were driving, there was no rear wiper at all, but they say they don't really need it. And some owners notably already have these cars and they say it's not the big deal. So interesting to see that. We covered that in the Optic video, but more taillight stuff here. I just do like the back of this car more than the IQ. The IQ looks good, I think. It's definitely more lyric vibes because of that like sloping method that they use in the design. And that does feel like the rest of their EV lineup. And the reason the IQ came out first is because even though this looks more classically Escalade, the IQ helped them redefine somewhat the Escalade name. Being an EV, it was an option to, you know what, take the Escalade stuff that we all know and love and create a second parallel identity, not replacing the old one, obviously, because they brought it back with the IQL, but it was, I almost said Chevy, Cadillac, basically adding a second identity, which is kind of cool. It gives the customer option, and that's the whole point. They want the customers to choose whether they want the more sculpted, slopey, 5 extra miles of range, or do you want the more functional, big, I guess, I don't know, bulky cutover back, like a true proper American SUV. So another thing that they do differentiate, even though this looks like the more classic Escalade shape, is the splitation, new word, of the taillights. The classic gas ICE Escalade has a seamless line all the way down. How ironic is it that they went from light bars, which we now think of as cars that go on bars that go on EVs, to separating them into a upper and lower. That was intentional. That was how they, I guess, differentiate the gas versus EV from the back, from a distance. It is a, I don't know if people will know that on the road. Like, ironically, I think if you did a random survey, people would assume the full seamless light bar would be the EV type thing, but they already had that on the ICE. So that's one way they separated it out. This does make it more cohesive with the other cars. I mean, if you look at the Lyric rear end, the Optic, all of the ICs, they all do have this split taillight design. It is interesting that they are trying to intentionally differentiate it. And what they said is the Cadillac Escalade IQ came out first, and that actually was the car meant for conquest buyers, meaning it's bringing new people to the brand, to Cadillac. This is more for the legacy buyers who maybe already had an ICE Escalade and they want something baller and more quiet, more refined, more luxurious than the outgoing. Not really outgoing. They still have ICE for now. We'll see how much longer those stay around. But this is, yeah, I guess probably the Escalade more for the classic Escalade customer. Don't know the coefficient of drag on this one, but it is 3.21 on the IQ, which did beat their original goal of 3.24. It would be interesting if this was 3.24. I don't know. It can't be that far off because of the range figure being so similar. But as soon as we can find out, we'll let you guys know. But just how much more functional is this? Well, it was easier to climb out of this than the IQ, trying that. But this has actually pretty much the same exact... Okay, the chime went away. Dude, I'm like PTSD.
I was bracing. I was like, oh,
PTSD from this stupid chime. That's okay. It's probably safety or something. The actual usable storage capacity behind the third row only changed by, I think, a little over half a cubic foot, which is not much of a difference. That's okay. It's still a pretty usable storage area. You do have some underfloor storage here, and not much though. So your effective riding height or load height is like waist high for most people, which is pretty high. This is definitely no gravity. Kyle did compare this to gravity in the other video if you guys want to go see how the packaging works, but that was an IQ. So IQL does technically increase storage capacity even more than gravity's, the lead they already had on gravity. But not really packaging efficiency, it's just technically more packaging, technically more range. The reason this is the same, essentially, within the half cubic foot or so, is that the rear third row has more legroom, like 4 inches more, which is substantial. Probably comparable headroom, but the headroom was never a problem. Isaiah and I have ridden in the back of the IQ. Totally fine. Honestly, they didn't need that much more, but more does help. So what does help, because of that, if you fold the third row down, by the way, it's not removable and you can't spec it without a third row. So if you do want just giant storage, I guess it's not really an option, but with a third row down, it actually gives you 6 more cubic feet than the IQ. So the storage capacity behind the second row is a 6 cubic foot difference, which does add up. I mean, that's half of a E-trunk extra space. By the way, the E-trunk also added to all this. I mean, that's just a lot of very usable storage capacity, which I appreciate seeing. I'm curious how hard this is to... Okay, so it doesn't power fold all the way, or does it? Oh, it does. And I think it power folds back up. Yeah, it does. Okay, love to see that. That is definitely a premium vibe feature. Cool. So I'm curious how I fit behind the second row as well. Okay. So I know car camping is such a niche thing, but with the second row scooted forward, I could actually lay in the back. I could definitely do it diagonally. And yeah, this is a lot of nice storage space. So I'll take it. You do some USB-C back here as well. Nice kind of microfiber headliner. The seat belt for the middle seat, of course. Middle air vent. Love to see that. Air vents for all occupants. And yeah, this is the normal interior with the captain's chairs, not the executive interior that Kyle got to see before. So I'm excited to show that to you guys. Let me raise this back up because we should investigate the interior and see how that feels. I think that's mostly the exterior design. They have the button to close it, but not the button to close and lock it, which is interesting. I do like having the button to close and lock it, but it's not a big deal. But here's the IQL badge. It is right aligned, so kind of cool. The I and the A goes together like that. I think this looks better than the IQ being moved all the way to the side like it is on the other truck, of course. And then 1000 E4, that's the power in Newton meters. They really can't decide on a torque figure, can they? Because 1000 Newton meters of torque, 785 pound-feet of torque, but then on the Hummer EV and the Chevy Silverado EV ZR2, they quote it in wheel torque, which is like 11,500. So they haven't decided on units yet, but when they do, that'll be sweet. Anyways, yeah, that's pretty much it. So this has the, I believe, the power doors, which you can select 3 different opening levels, by the way. You can go just this far, basically. This one is the medium, this is the default, and you can select it to go all the way open. Once it is open, it is huge and kind of heavy, but it's a solid door. Pretty cool. I guess let's see. If I pull this forward, pull it again, that opens up to a very easy ingress to the third row. That was a huge complaint Kyle had with, well, and everyone has, with the executive package. It is just really hard to get back here without that. But I think once you're back here, let's see if I have any sort of controls on where the seat can sit. No, I think this is just statically where it sits. Actually decently comfortable. Plenty of headroom above my tall hat. And I do like having these air vents right here. I will say it is a bummer to have the glass roof not extend even further back. Notably, the Vistic had its own kind of roof situation back here for third row occupants. And yeah, looking on the inside, so Isaiah, you rode in the IQ earlier in the third row, and while I was driving, but this is not a driving impression, by the way, because for some reason we have to keep those separate, even though Kyle's already driven it, whatever. Your view out of that car is the opposite of this.
Right.
You could see straight out this area, whereas up here was car.
Right.
This is the opposite. How was your view? Because this is kind of a bummer.
I guess from your perspective, what does it look like for you? I mean, I couldn't really.
That's kind of.
I wish this entire portion was window. Honestly.
Yeah, that would be really cool, because basically I can look backwards to my right. So as a third row passenger, I am the blind spot monitoring system in this car. that's how I would kind of feel about that. Yeah, interesting. I think this is the one to get for sure, but that is a interesting downside to the IQL. You have USB ports back here. They seem to all be 42 watts. I've tried every Escalade, even the gas one that we rode in, and that seems to be what they've gone with. A bit disappointing, especially for the executive package. I'll explain why when we get to that. But how do I pull this? Oh, okay. So Isaiah, if you want to sit in front of me, I'm kind of curious on the leg room.
So this is with my knees all the way up, and if I move it back, this is where I would preferably sit.
Jeez, I have so much room.
Really?
This is absolutely the Escalade to get. Huge screen right there. Definitely a different option than the executive package. So we can kind of play with this and see what it has. But it is, I believe, 5-zone climate control. Nice. Closing the door proper there. You can't open the front doors, only the rear from here. And there's rear heated seats with the captain's chairs, but no cooling, which is a bit of a bummer. See what other controls we have. Ambient lighting, overview, various styles. Cool. Okay. Well, that's kind of neat. And you can even sync and save to styles. You can really do a lot with ambient lighting. And then second row on, I don't know if it is actually fully separate zones on left and right. Kind of appears to not be, but you can still adjust airflow and stuff. And oh, there we go. Yeah, it does seem to be individual as far as I can tell, which is nice, but not a ton of controls back here. Really just doors, climate control, ambient lighting. That's pretty much it.
Here they showed I thought that was kind of funny. They show you this is not the package we have. We have the regular.
The screen is showing the executive second row, which is kind of funny. Okay. Well, you do the screens here, which is cool that they're not just an executive row situation. This is what I sometimes test things with. isitchristmas.com. So yes, full web browser right here. That's pretty cool. Would be funny to pull up, I don't know, Ford's ordering page or something, but they had Cadillac.com pulled up. You're actually gonna do it. All right, so Isaiah is designing a lucid gravity on the browser on the screen there. But yeah, cool that both screens work. I do think though, honestly, these screens are fine, and I hope they keep them up to date and they function well into the future, but huge kind of ugly bezels, not the highest quality screen. It's decent though, for totally decent. But I feel like just a good iPad holder or tablet holder would allow you to bring your own tablet, maybe save some money. I'm not sure what these cost as an option, but a lot of kids have their own tablets, and then you have more options. I mean, this only had, back in the home, didn't it have just YouTube, pretty much? YouTube and Hulu. You can also, though, you have HDMI slots down there. You could mount your PlayStation 3 and your Xbox 360 somewhere, and then you could have those set up. You could maybe even set up your Nintendo Switches and do a whole lobby in the car of like Mario Kart, Fortnite, etc. Love to see that. That's hilarious. This is equipped with the AKG stereo system, which has 38 speakers, because it's not the executive package. That would give you 4 more speakers in the headrest of the second row. But it does have nice headrest speakers in the front row. So I think we've established this is easy to get in and out of, with or without putting the seat up or down, which is nice. So I'm going to, you're going to open the door for me? Thank you, sir.
No problem, gentlemen.
All right, let's jump into the front. To close these, you can just pull that right there, one touch situation. And now I'll open this up. So, plenty of room for ingress. Oh, the chime, Isaiah. I'll let you get in on the other side. And I'll just close this. Lovely. So, welcome to the central cockpit area. I mean, this truly is a cockpit because there are, well, technically only 3 screens up here, but the entire screen real estate is massive. They call this a 55-inch screen. That's kind of annoying to me. It's clearly 2 separate screens. It's just marketing speak. It's the 35, I think, inch screen that we're familiar with other cars. Maybe it's 33 inch. And then, what's the other inches? 20 inch something? I don't know. Passenger screen, that's separate. This is 8K. This is 4K. Plenty good. And that even has the cool, what do they call it? Some feature where once someone's watching YouTube over there, it's covered from my eyes as the driver. So cool tech. We've seen that rolled out in a lot of other cars now, but love to see it here. It does feel like clearly a very tech forward concept of cockpit. These seats have massage, they have heating, they have cooling, everything you'd want to see and feel as a driver. Touch points are really pretty good. Again, this is similar to the Escalade Kyle tested. The same like crunching sound if you like touch the dash. So maybe it's not really meant to be touched, but at the same time, commonly what you would do is rest your hand here to touch the screen. And when I rest my hand here, the whole dash creaks. Not dramatically, but it just doesn't feel that nice, that premium, which is just a bit disappointing to me. I'm going to turn my, let's see, how intuitive is this? If I want, oh wait, seat cooling is over here. Which is not currently enabled probably. So not going to worry about that. But front row, second row, dual zone, there's the third row. So it is 5 zones. It's just harder to recognize that from the second row display, interestingly. It's okay. I don't really love this screen, similar to Taycan. My complaints are just, we were just in the Optic, which had buttons for climate control. I'm usually fine with screens, but like if it's not the most responsive screen and there's a little bit of a delay when you tap it and it's like very slow to oscillate between stuff. Uh-oh. Okay, turning that way down. It's very slow to like select things. And I know this is pre-production, but messing it with a production version, still same story. Just this doesn't feel like a premium experience. This feels like more like a Dodge display, which is not a compliment. But it's fine. It's serviceable. You can bring down your common use menu where you can have all these quick access things. Those are nice to see. Similar to Kyle, I agree. The camera system is a bit of a bummer. Like decent cameras for sure, but with the way the screen's set up, the IP, the screen is so short and narrow, you just don't really have much real estate dedicated to a 360 camera. They should have pulled a Lucid. This could have been the top-down view, like, and you could see a bit closer of where your car is, with that being like different camera angles of like the tires or something. That would be cool. But what seems to be an ongoing theme here is everything just feels a bit too far away from the driver. The cameras are way over there. We were even using navigation earlier. The maps are way over there. And so if I'm trying to touch something, I have to like lean way over to touch whatever's on the right, upper right corner. So it is visually beautiful to see the screen taking up the entire dash. It's a giant panorama, but the downside of that is that you don't have a driver focused situation that a lot of other cars try to lean into. Even the Optic, for example, had a more driver focused. The screen was like right here, angled towards the driver. The driver gauge cluster and stuff was there, and it was fine. Heads-up display, pretty small actually, but seems really high quality. Might even be OLED. It's hard to tell in here, but that actually looks really pretty nice. Let me see if I can show you guys, see if it'll focus. But that like looks pretty good. Definitely fairly small cutout when you look at it and actually in the dash, but otherwise not, mixed bag for sure in the interior. Love the digital rearview mirror. I like that being a consistent option through GM products. That just helps with the rear visibility. And unfortunately, with the class of car, this thing weighs over 9,000 pounds. You can't have like the convex, I think, mirrors on the sides. So they appear fairly zoomed in. Because of that, when you do the turn signal, I guess while you're in drive, a camera pulls up here, which replaces your map, and then you can't see where you're going. Just little nuances in the software that makes me feel like they're just not quite there yet. However, unlike the optic, this shows you state of charge, which is really cool. I'm trying to see how complicated it would be to change this display. I guess this button in the optic wasn't doing anything, but here it's actually showing whatever I want it to. Nice. Okay. So maybe that's the move, is to have your maps here and then something else can be done there. That's actually gorgeous, huge view of maps. Can change this to driver's assistance. That brings back music on the right. Night vision, super cool. Small night vision camera there. And then we have gauges, which I'm guessing might change with drive mode. So going here to drive mode, we'll go to sport for a second. Didn't seem to change the gauge, so maybe that's not tied to it. Not entirely sure, but we can look through. Nothing's really changed here. This is all the same type of stuff. Cool little animation with the lights. I actually love that. The animations like Ford and stuff are cool, but like in the Hummer, which is the same parent company as this, but the animations are overwhelming and like sometimes glitch up and freeze. I like it being this simple, honestly. My mode is nice, but having motor sound not have an off option is annoying, kind of frustrating. So I wish that was not just tour and sport, but like off. A secret off button would be nice. I guess there is like a low ride mode. I'm curious to see where that is. Like I'm thinking of all the features I know of on this thing and like, okay, how easy is it to access? Here's where you would do rear steering on or off. And you can also set your arrival mode, which arrival mode is crab walk, but in Escalade terms. The reason they chose that is because crab walk, I guess, feels less luxurious to say. And the Hummer is not necessarily the luxurious customer. So arrival is the terminology for this. Interesting. This, like I said, is equipped with the AKG 38, I think, speaker stereo in this case. It is 21 speakers as the standard, like lower trim, which is probably still a pretty good system. But this one being 38 speakers absolutely bumps. And there's a 42 speaker in the executive row, which we'll go check out here in a second. But totally fine. But like I said, 2026 model year, which actually this one is, will have Dolby Atmos, which is going to be amazing. I don't know if it's the same 7.1.4 decoding that the optic uses, but we'll find out as soon as we can test one. It does that through Amazon Music or Tidal. Unfortunately, this doesn't have either of those installed, so I can't even test to see if it's working on this. And unfortunately, no Apple Music support yet. I've pestered them about it. They hopefully have my feedback, because as an iPhone user, I'm kind of ostracized. An iPhone Apple Music user, I should say. Because there's no CarPlay, no wireless way to do CarPlay, no wired way to do CarPlay, no way to even do wired music. So if I want to use my Apple Music, I have to use Bluetooth, which is a less ideal experience. So, I think, I don't know, Isaiah, how's your passenger display?
Really nice. Got Hulu, YouTube Kids. I can't imagine anyone in the passenger seat watching YouTube Kids up here, but hey, it works.
Nice. It's funny how the YouTube browser doesn't take up like the whole situation. But yeah, that's interesting. So otherwise, a lot of piano black. I don't like the piano black on the steering wheel. I've already mentioned that in other videos. There's a Velocity Max mode button here, which is cool, but then having Super Cruise and heated steering wheel next to each other, both with a steering wheel icon, can be confusing, but obviously you can get used to it. This just looks super dirty instantly, no matter what. So my recommendation, just keep a microfiber towel in your Escalade, really in any Cadillac you have, at all times, and that way you can clean your car after every single drive cycle, ideally. This is the cooled wireless phone charger, I believe. which is nice. This one also ventilated, so 2 wireless chargers. Also HDMI up here, so you could have the Xbox and PlayStation in the back seats, a Nintendo Switch up here for that display, and then you can really be bumping. Love to see that. And then more USB-C ports. USB-C ports kind of everywhere. This is the floating cantilever central console thing. That's also something different from the ICE Escalade, the fuel combustion one. It's kind of cool, looks nice. I think the whole interior design is really, really nice. We do have an entire interview over the Spec podcast with the interior and exterior designers, so those are worth checking out. But yeah, other things exist as options, such as the executive second row and a water bottle cooler down here. So let's go look at those in the normal IQ just to differentiate some of the options. Okay, so we can also take advantage of the space to look at some of the color options. This is, for example, a bit more of a matte satin paint. This is gorgeous. I think Escalade IQL with this colorway, flawless. And then you throw on these big boy wheels, and I can't think of a better spec. This is the low gloss black alloy wheel with bronze. This would also look good. I'm not the biggest fan of black wheels, but this does look pretty nice. That one's kind of a black bronze combo, which could be interesting. This is shiny, the bright alloy wheel, again, all 24s, but it'll be interesting to see what the 22-inch one does look like at some point. But yeah, this is the IQ, which I know Kyle's already done some stuff with, but we can look at the executive row really quick. That is a major difference with this one. It does have the executive captain's chairs, which are very nice. They do drastically hurt the rear legroom. So this is like the situation you get if you didn't really ever need the third row. In fact, a lot of people I think would just leave the third row folded down and just treat this like a 2+2 with a good amount of storage space. It's still useful storage for sure back there. But yeah, otherwise this is comparable to, I think this is the exact same actually what Kyle tested before, so we can check out his video. But more actively cooled wireless phone chargers, more cup holders, similar type of screen, but these do have heated, cooled, and massage, unlike the captain's chairs, which are just heated. Your HDMI ports are still down there. You do have the 120 volt outlet as well. And let me show you, you can open this, pull out your, let's see.
I actually think that one's broken. The one on the other side isn't, though.
Oh,
yeah.
So one of them was broken, but you can see how this tray table works. It actually does feel pretty nice. Like, I've been on airlines with much worse tray tables. So you can pull your laptop out and work here. Or I guess you could connect your laptop to this and have 2 screens, which actually, that would be kind of cool. Now I want to try that at some point. But I think what would be the cherry on top, and some feedback I gave them, is it would be cool to have like higher power delivery USB ports for someone who is working on the go, like maybe myself. It would be nice to have more power. Those USB ports, like I said, are like 42-ish watts. I've been testing them, and that's enough to keep a MacBook alive. But if you're like editing, like me and Isaiah are doing a lot, then that's not quite enough juice to really keep you going. Of course, you have the 120 volt. Like I said, you can just do the wall plug, but that's, I think, a less premium experience. It would be nice to just plop it in the USB port. It'd be even cooler if they incorporated, you know, Thunderbolt or whatever the parameter is with USB-C to also feed data to the display. That'd be the cherry on top. That would be tech forward looking for this. But you can see here how this window is what was blocking the view on the IQL. It's actually open here, so that's definitely a difference. Gonna see if I can pop this thing open and just look at, yeah, definitely a little bit less, I'd say, usable storage capacity here. And I think can fold. So I've been spoiled by the new Model Y that adjusts all the seats as necessary to fold the row down. Whereas here, if that happens, I guess you can maybe pull it back up. Maybe this actually folds down. It does seem like it would have that as an option, but there's nothing immediately apparent on how to do it. But either way, once these are folded down, this seems like totally nice, usable storage capacity. So that's cool. I also wanted to check the front seat just to see if there's a difference in packaging No, this has the same floating center console that we saw in the other Escalade, but I can show you this one over here for a slightly different situation. So, opening this frunk, we can actually see, oh, you have to really press it. I've had a lot of false presses with the front buttons lately. This is a cool package option that you can add. It is a slide out rack type system, can hold up to 175 pounds, and that's an easier way to load luggage, etc. And you have these storage cubbies for groceries, so you can throw them in your e-trunk and not have to worry about them sliding around. So kind of a cool, nice feature. And then another gadget up here is, voila, underneath the floating cantilever thing, we have a chiller. So I think, how do you access this? Oh, nice. That's where you can store, oh dude, it's so nice and cool too. So that's where you can store, oh my gosh, this chime. Get out, get out. That's where you can store water bottles and things and keep them cool. So, cool. I don't know how many people would use the storage capacity of that area under the floating cantilever central console situation versus a water bottle chiller. I'd prefer the water bottle chiller, I think, but hey, you get choice, which is nice. So this is also, yeah, same executive interior. So that's kind of a bit more of a look around. We can look at a couple more materials here, but hopefully that gives you guys a bit more of an idea of how the different colors look, how the IQL looks versus the IQ. More paint options, which is cool. That would be interesting on Escalade. That would be a lot of orange. Monarch, maybe it's the same color as the Optic, not really sure. They don't have the same leaning into recycled and sustainable materials as they did on the Optic. So it is interesting to see the the optics of how they're differentiating their brands. A few more bucks over here with showing the colorways. And yeah, let us know what color you guys like to see on Escalades. Are you a fan of the classic blacked out version? IQL would look really cool, I think, fully blacked out. It would look cool in this blue color. And yeah, I guess from this angle, you can kind of see both side by side, especially the back ends and how they look different. So, as you can see on the sign above the wall, let's take the Cadillac. That's what we're about to do. Unfortunately, we can't show that in this video because, well, driving impressions are embargoed for another week, and we're trying to get this out to you guys. But Kyle has already driven the Cadillac Escalade IQ and the IQL. Same wheelbase, 136 inches. Dimensions, tiny bit longer, 4 inches longer. Width is the same, but the height is like 2 inches higher. So it is just a little bit bigger, but it drives the same because it's got the same four-wheel steering situation, 7.2 degrees, I think it was, rear wheel steer. You can do the arrival mode, all the same maneuverability, just under 40 feet for the turning circle diameter. So a lot of similar things, same type of powertrain. You got like 750 horsepower, 785 pound-feet of torque, or like I said, 1,000 Newton meters. And without VMAX mode, velocity max mode, it's like 700 horsepower, maybe 600 something, high 600s torque. Still a beast, but it is a lot of weight. Over 200 kilowatt hours of battery is no slouch to move that around. So let us know what you guys think. Isaiah, any final thoughts?
It's an Escalade. That's all you got to know.
It's baller, and the IQL just looks so good. But it is interesting seeing the difference in, like we said, the DC pillar area between the IQ versus the IQL. I actually, from the inside, maybe prefer the IQ just because of the visibility, but from a storage capacity standpoint and from the outside elegance, I prefer the box. We'll see you guys in the next one very soon. Bye.
Is it gonna open it?
I guess the emergency latch only opens it and doesn't actually open it, if you know what I'm saying. How was your ride, sir?
Amazing. I can sleep in this. Why own a home? Just own an Escalade IQ. You can sleep right there.
Basically is the same size as a 2-bedroom, 3-bath townhome.
Exactly. Same price too.